Alright, so in this video I'm going to be doing a little bit of exhaust welding with the Harbor Freight Flux Core Welder. When it comes to this process, just know that it's going to be pretty much like a temporary patch. It's just to get you by until you get your exhaust fixed professionally. Now before I get to welding this, I do want to point out that you wouldn't want to do this on an engine that's tuned up, or like a race engine or anything like that, or a high performance engine, let's put it that way. Just because those types of systems, they really need a really good exhaust flow. And when it comes to a regular car or beater, a truck, whatever, Flux Core is just fine. It'll do the job. Like I said, it's a temporary fix. Alright, so this is pretty much what it looks like, and I don't know, I can't really get a good view for you guys, but as you can see, the weld is flat all around, and well, it's holding on there. Since this is tubing and I really don't want it to warp on me, I'm going to go ahead and go to the opposite side and do the same thing. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've cleaned this weld on the opposite side here, and just to show you, I got a little bit more of a weld buildup on this side. There's no holes, there's no pores, and the metal is slightly rusty, so other than cleaning it on the parts where I was going to weld it on the edges there, other than that, it really doesn't have much prep. And you can see that I was able to get a good solid weld over that. And not the prettiest weld, not stack of dime look, but I mean, it's sufficient for pretty much very light, thin tubing here. So I'm just going to go ahead now along, and I'm just going to be making that series of tacks, and I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's all complete. Alright, so I finally finished with my piece here. I finally welded it, and you know, I want to apologize if the welding video looks like crap. It's just really hard to get flux core wire welding captured on video. So anyways, after cleaning my part here, I just went ahead and gone around with the wire brush just so I could show you guys. And you're going to see that there's a little bit of, it's really shiny, so it's going to be a little bit hard for you guys to really view this. But anyways, I just want to show you guys the penetration I had in the back there. And as you can see, those are pretty much spot weld. You can see like the little spot welds in there. And it had really good penetration. Right here I had quite a bit, so it's not a really big dingleberry or anything like that. But you know, it's penetration, and the piece is pretty stuck together. So yeah, I guess you would call this just pretty much a temporary patch job. I would categorize this as like a farm weld or something like that. If you're repairing a tractor and you know you're not going to put a whole exhaust or anything like that, you just need to patch together a cracked piece of pipe or something like that, then you can get away with this type of welding. But I did a couple of different techniques on here. Pretty much most of the pipe, or the tube I should say, is overlapping tack welds. And well, I did try going continuous on two parts here. I ended up burning through, and I just really couldn't set the welder to do a really good continuous weld just because the material is very, very thin. And the best way to weld it is overlapping tack welds, and you can get pretty good, decent penetration from those. A lot of people will, you know, have a different opinion about it, but it does work as long as you have a really good hot setting. When it comes to this, my settings were mainly 4 and max. 4 wire feed speed and max setting. With enough practice, one could get really good welds or nice looking welds. But of course, flux core welding on the exhaust or car exhaust tubing, when you're doing this kind of work, you're not really going for the aesthetics. You're pretty much just going for patching your exhaust until you can get to a muffler shop or something like that. Exhaust is really best done with TIG or the MIG process, but with flux core it can be done. Just to show you here, it can be done, and it's like I said, you know, it's temporary. It's a small little patch job. I pulled this little piece of exhaust out of the scrap bin so you could see. I only cleaned the part where I was going to weld it anyways. You could see rust here, and when it comes to rusty, beat up exhaust tubing, you're going to be working with different thicknesses, and that's why the overlapping tack welds is the best. Before attempting to weld on exhaust, make sure that you get some scrap in the same diameter and at least the same thickness, so you know what setting to use from the Harbor Freight machine, because when you first try to attempt to do this, I mean, you're going to get burned through. So you got to set the machine. There's no magical setting on the machine for exhaust. Even the settings that are on the machine are going to really be good settings. So you kind of got to play with it and play with the travel speed to get a really good weld. Another thing is try to go as fast as you can on your tack welds. If you're going to go hot, go fast. And you shouldn't have no slag inclusion in any of your weld. So make sure you go fast. Do not dwell or, you know, focus on one area more than the other, because you will burn through. And oh yeah, also for those guys who are going to be welding on their cars, you know, doing just a patch job like this, you're going to be doing it on a car, make sure that you remove the battery. And I mean remove both terminals, and best you just remove the battery and move it out of the way. I really don't recommend welding before the converter or the catalytic converter, because there's an oxygen sensor and welds, and the flow of exhaust could really, you know, it'll give the exhaust sensor a false reading, and there'll be turbulence in there, and you really don't want that, especially if you have a pore in there and you have oxygen going in there. It's going to screw with your converter. And on modern cars, there's a converter before and after. There's an oxygen sensor before and after the converter. So anything after the sensors, you can get away with something like this. Before the sensors, I would suggest, you know, doing a couple of tack welds, driving it over to the exhaust shop and getting, you know, a whole piece made for you or something. Just get it done professionally. But for you guys out there who are doing the farm welds and stuff like that, working on the farms and on the ranches, and, you know, you're just trying to put something together like your tractor exhaust or something, maybe on an ATV or something like that, something where it's not really critical. Our Harbor Freight welders should be good enough to do a temporary job for you guys. For those people who keep asking me, can you weld exhaust or tubing with a Harbor Freight welder? Well, I guess that's your answer. Take it as you want. I say you can. Temporary job. For those who are going to cry and say, no, you can't, well, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.